All right, guys, now I am joined by the architect, the visionary, the one and only Seth Freakin Rollins. Seth, thank you for joining me, man.
DC, thank you. It's always a pleasure.
You know we love you here at ESPN. WrestleMania, again, another main event. You know, I've been able to speak to both of your opponents in the build to this. One thing about this match to me that stands out is in a story, it's easy to capture people when you have that belt. That belt is so easy to recognize as, I know what these guys are fighting for. But you guys have told such a great story without a title. You're a main event without a title. How have you guys been able to tell that story so effectively and have people so drawn in to this match?
Well, I think it's definitely a unique thing. You mentioned having a main event without a world championship. You go back through all the WrestleManias, there's very few of those.
Yeah.
And it does take a special attraction to do that. And I think between the three of us, myself, Roman Reigns, and CM Punk, you have that attraction. But what you also have is real equity, real relationships that span generations. And I think when you're able to pull from all of that history and bring it all together, it kind of creates this perfect concoction of what a main event is meant to be. You've got tons of equity, you've got three top stars, and you've got very personal issues between all three of us. So it works in that way.
You know, you also have stars, and when you have the type of stardom that you have, and Roman has, and Punk has, now with Netflix and the new deal, the visibility that comes, ESPN covering this, we're not sitting with everybody, right? We're sitting with the stars, the names, the people that are drawn to it. Is there a part of your career that you can look back on that has shaped you the most to make you that person that we, the Big E, wants to sit with because you are just so valuable to this product?
Man, you know, I really learned the most about it during my time in developmental.
Really?
And I'll tell you why. Yeah, I'll tell you why. So I came from the independent circuit. I was there for 6 years. I spent time in Ring of Honor where I spent some time at the top of the card there. When I got to WWE for the first time, I expected that it would be an uphill battle for me. And what I found when I got there was because of where I had come from and the time I had put in to my craft, I was already head and shoulders above everybody else. And now it was on me to lead. For the first time in my life, I was the absolute best guy on that roster, and I knew it.
Yeah.
I wasn't a young guy coming up. I wasn't learning from Austin Aries and Chris Hero and Bryan Danielson. I was there. I was that guy when I got to Florida Championship Wrestling in 2010. And so once I figured that out, I had to figure out how to lead, how to be the guy, to set the example, to lead everybody else, to change the style, to change the paradigm.
Yeah.
And that's where it really took hold of me. And I channeled that when I got to NXT. And then as I got to WWE, we took it to the next level. And here we are. You know, we're sort of reaping the rewards of what that sacrifice looked like for 10 years, trying to dig us out of the doldrums and into a good place.
You know what I love about you is you always pay homage to your time on the indies, right? The time you spent building who you are. But there's a certain restraint when you get to the big show. I learned it when I got to the UFC, right? I couldn't be as free as I was in Strikeforce or on those little ones. Do you ever miss that? Do you ever miss that freedom? Or now, are you at a point in your career now where you are so valuable that you have that type of freedom even here?
So I think when I first got to WWE, and you know, there's writers and there's scripts and there's politics in a way that I had never experienced, it was difficult. It was difficult to process. But once I got here, what I looked at it as was like a new challenge. So sometimes the freedom is great because you have this blank page and you can do whatever you want, and that's amazing. You get to be this freelance artist, right? But sometimes having little blinders or bumpers like at the bowling lane, like this little guide helps you. Yeah, it sort of helps you, and it fits you in. You have to, okay, now I have to be creative in a different way because I have to find a way to make this thing that I don't think is going to work. I have to go out there and do it. I have no choice. We're live in 2 hours, you know? And so that challenge I started to really embrace. How do I figure out what we've got and make it amazing? And then once you get really good at that, you start to be more in depth in the creative process at the onset. And then it's right back to where you started. Then it's basically a blank page for guys like me who've built that equity in that relationship creatively.
You know, you are a guy that your moveset is as vast as anyone in this thing. Falcon Arrow is still one of my favorite moves, dude. It's so sick. You can hit it every match, and I love when you come off, boom, up into the drop. It's one of my favorite moves in all of professional wrestling. Obviously not a finisher, but just looks good.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, yes.
You can do these things on autopilot, although you never do. Do you still get nervous? Or do you still struggle, right? With all the time spent, are there still things in there that you struggle with?
So I think anytime I come back from an injury, you know, as an athlete, you know what that's like. There's always that little bit of doubt. Can I be the person I was before? Is the audience going to accept me the way they did before? You know, this year was taxing for me from an injury standpoint.
Yeah.
After WrestleMania last year, you know, I took off some time to get my knee cleaned up. I had torn my MCL and my meniscus, and I had to get that fixed. Took some time off that. Then I had a neck injury that really took me out for some time. And every time I go away, I come back and I'm wondering, like I said, can I be the same person? I'm 38. I'm almost 39 now. So I've been doing this for over 20 years. Like, the bump card is starting to run out. You know, so you wonder, you start to ask yourself. So the nerves come in a different way. Like, I know I can go out there and grab a crowd. I know I can go out there and cut a promo, but can I be the guy that those people are expecting me to be, the guy that I've given them for 2 decades? And I think that kind of nervousness is something that's different than what I experienced when I was younger.
You know, earlier you spoke about equity, right? There's so much equity in
A lot
this
of it.
match. But a lot of it's not the best equity, right? It's not great. It's time, but it isn't good time, because you and Roman don't have the best relationship. You and CM Punk, what most would say, is a bad relationship.
Yeah.
He even sat up here today and told me, I don't like Seth, right? I can see when you say, I don't like this dude because of what you believe he was to the company when he was there. He even said, I can see some of the things that he says and I can agree with those things. But why? Like, why have you guys not been able to move past that, right, since he's been back? Because yesterday you told me time will show his true self. He's still that guy.
Yeah.
Why have you guys not been able to move past that?
I think when you breach trust the way that he breached my trust, it takes a long time to grab that forgiveness. And look, as I get older and older, I'm easier to let things slide. Kind of, you know, I can take things a little bit and let them go. But I got no time for bull crap.
For bull, yep.
Yeah,
bull.
I got no time for it, man.
Yeah.
I'm like, why? What are you gonna add to my life?
Yep,
Right? What
yep.
is this relationship gonna add to my life? And I look at WWE as my family. It's been my dream since I was a little kid. Since I got here, it's given me everything I have. My house, my wife, my baby, all of that is through this business and through this company. I'm able to provide for my family, allow them to have good lives that they wouldn't have. And I have this guy here who was a friend, betrayed me, and then tried to take away all that stuff. He would have loved it if this company failed and all of us were out of the job. He asked specific friends to leave the company because of the way it treated him, the way he felt about that. I mean, and that's, to me, that's like sacrilege, man. That's my family. This is my home. You come in here, you try to take my family, you try to take my home like that? Nah. So it is hard for me to forgive him and to forget. Especially, you know, we're in the conflict business as well. So you add that on top of it, I mean, we're fighting for the same top spot. There's a lot that goes into it. But at the end of the day, what does a relationship with CM Punk add to my life?
Yeah.
Why?
Exactly.
What does it do for me at this point in my life?
Yeah, outside of business.
Outside of business, which is what we got. Why?
Yeah.
What do I care? I got no time for you, man. So to me, it's more valuable to hate you and to punch you in the face than it is to have you at my side and us holding hands and skipping down the yellow brick road. So that's where I'm at with CM Punk.
I always try to tell people that they're like, one day you guys are going to be great friends. We're like, why do we have to?
Yeah.
Everything doesn't need to end like Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield. Kumbaya. It doesn't need to be kumbaya.
Doesn't at all, man. It doesn't. I got friends. I'm loved. I feel love. I give love. I got family. I got friends. I got more than enough friends. I don't need another one that I can't trust as far as I can see him.
Yeah.
You know? So why? What are we doing here?
Yeah.
What's the point?
You know, you are a main event again. And for my money, you are one of the greatest superstars of all time. You have done everything. You have won everything.
Thank you.
You've been one of the best for a real long time. And honestly, you have carried this company on your back with the injuries and everything else that you've had to go through. You've carried this company on your back for a long time. So my last question to you is this. When you've done it all, when you've seen it all, what is success to a guy like Seth Rollins? Like, how do you measure success at this point in your career?
Growth of the business, I think. For me as an individual, you mentioned all the accolades, you mentioned the main events. I wouldn't mind getting that night 2 main event. I think that one's escaped me a little bit. But for me, I look at where the business is at. I look at the future of the business. How can I contribute there to these young guys and girls? What can I give to them? Do I feel like the future is in a good place? Am I contributing in that way? And then I look at the overall health. Are we bringing in the money? Because that's what it is. It's a business. It's about money.
Yep.
Are we bringing in new fans? Are we expanding our reach? And what we've been able to do during my time, if you look from 2012 to 2025, it's so much bigger. It's so much healthier. And the next generation is primed and ready to go. And so as long as we can continue to make those moves, I feel like I'm giving out the best that Seth Rollins has.
Absolutely.
And the individual stuff, it's going to come, man. We'll get that night 2 one of these years.
You've got it time and time again. Guys, Seth Rollins is in the main event of night 1 at WrestleMania 41. He takes on Roman Reigns and CM Punk in what will be an absolute banger. Make sure you continue to support Seth Rollins and everything he's doing. He's a tremendous wrestler and a great friend of the program. Seth, thank you again for joining us, man. I appreciate you.
Thank you, DC.
Good luck this weekend.